Hey folks, Steve here. How you doing? Exciting video for me today in that this is an idea I have had for a long time now and was finally able to act on it. The time came together along with having the materials and probably as much as anything the motivation to do it. So what I'm going to build today is what I'm going to lovingly refer to as the all-terrain Ron Paulk Smart Transportation KART. Alright, so kind of the ATST or something like that. So anyway, what it is basically is I needed a cart that I could put 2 benches in, and then I could roll up into my trailer, and then I could take them back out again, these work benches like the one I'm sitting by, his smart benches. Now one of the problems I have is that because my trailer is so small, it's a 6 foot by 10 foot, that with Ron's wider trailer, he can use these carts, and these carts with a kind of a modified system can actually go up into his trailer with the benches kind of nested inside them. But these are way too wide for my trailer, so that wasn't going to work. So I had to come up with something different, and that means that I need a narrower cart that will only be for transport, not for actually setting the benches up on and using them for mobility while they're set up. That's what these are. I have 2 of these right here, plus this bench is actually sitting on one right now. This one here would be for the smart station, and this is for that knockdown version of his smart bench, and this is a scratch-built smart bench from his plans. So with that, I want to be able to take a smart bench and the smart station with me, and I want to be able to roll them into the trailer. I want to be able to roll them out of the trailer, move them around on the job site, and then just offload them, set them up, and have them ready to go. If I'm in a yard, I don't use the carts, the bench carts. If I'm on concrete or on a smooth surface, then I would actually set them on this for the mobility while the thing is actually set up. All right, well, today, because I had come fresh off of building these 2 things right here, these 2 smart carts for the benches, I had really in my mind exactly what I wanted to do. So I had already done the measurements. I knew exactly how wide and how long and everything else. Just getting set up and ready to go and just making the parts and making it happen. So that's what this video is. I will do a little bit of voiceover just to let you know what I'm doing along the way. Video of actually using the cart with the benches on it, moving it in and out. So I'll show you that. I'll watch it, and I'll tell you what I'm doing along the way, and let's get to it. All right, I will say that after 5 years or better now, that dropping that ramp door on this trailer never ever gets old. Just in the fact that when I drop it, everything is right there, it's all organized, I can find it, I have it. And rolling this thing up onto a job site, just knowing that I have the tools that I need, regardless of how unusual it may be that day to where all of a sudden you're crimping gutters. You know, never would have thought you'd be doing that, but my crimping tool for my gutters is in there. You know, just something weird like that. So anyway, it just never gets old. I am so happy that I built this thing out, and it just continues to deliver. And I'm really looking forward to the next trailer, which will be wider, longer, and taller. So really cool. I'm setting up some electric today because I will have to use my corded router, and I actually had stacked 2 projects. I'm doing this project on my all-terrain cart, and then after this I'm actually going to continue fabricating parts for the smart station, which is still kind of in the works. There's a whole long story with that. Okay, well, I have, of course, a sheet of plywood here. This is just a sheet of AC plywood. It's not the ultralight, lightweight plywood. I didn't buy any extra plywood to do a project like this, so this is just me running down to my local hardware and picking up a sheet. So anyway, what I'm doing is I'm just starting to, of course, measure and fabricate parts. I need a bottom, and then I need the sides. I need the 2 ends, then I need 2 extra ends, which will be a little bit bigger for structure. I need 2 bottom pieces just to thicken up the area where I'm going to install the casters, and that will be my all-terrain cart. And all-terrain in that I should be able to wheel this out into lawns and things like that to offload benches, because a lot of times, you know, I may be working where there is no concrete. And if I am, then these benches right here, they will actually get set up out in the yard, but I won't use a cart with them. There would not be a need for that because these carts, I haven't tried it, but I don't think they're going to be necessarily all-terrain. All right, well, let's see what I'm doing. Breaking down some plywood. I'm using my 46-inch track for my track saw, and I have all 3 sizes. I have the middle size, and of course you saw the long size a little bit earlier. On this, yeah, there it is. On this small track, I am using my Tissot guide rail square, and it just allows me to, when I put that thing on and kind of bump it up against the plywood or whatever I'm cutting. Exactly 90-degree cut every single time. That is a precision tool. The fitment on my track is just absolutely amazing. I think it is specifically designed for the DeWalt track. There are others for other types of tracks, so if you get one, be careful what you get. But man, that is a convenient tool. Just speeds you up on how to get something square. Right now, it looks like I am getting ready, or actually I'm in the middle of fabricating the long sides. So they will be as long as the bottom. Then my two ends will be short enough to where they'll go inside of the long sides as far as for assembly. And at this point, I am probably making the extra, the ends, rather, excuse me, not the extra, the ends, of which I actually, even though I need two ends, I actually need four ends, two that'll fit inside in the construction, and then two that'll actually wrap on the outside. You'll see that construction. So the two on the extreme right are the shorter, the two on the left are the longer. At this point, just because I have the opportunity to, I'm going ahead and chamfering all of the edges. And that's just my corded router, or cordless router that I have set up with a chamfer like all the time. I used to have a roundover, but then all of a sudden I noticed contractors on YouTube were all using chamfer bits, and I didn't want to look like I was the weird guy, so I went ahead and just swapped it out with the chamfer bit, and I've been using it ever since. I don't mind the roundover. It doesn't bother me at all. I think the chamfer bit is simply for the dog holes and special dogs that you buy nowadays that need a chamfer as opposed to just a roundover. I think that was part of the reason why. So anyway, just rounding things over or chamfering as you will and sanding when I can. Of course, you see that I am assembling on my old workbench. And that old workbench has been with me for as long as I've had the trailer. That workbench has really stood the test of time. I weather sealed it in with a marine varnish, and it has really held up. There are very few marks on it because I have continued to use those sacrificial strips, and I am not looking forward to getting rid of it, but very soon here, by the time the summer hits, that bench will be superfluous to my operation. And it is longer. It's 7 feet long, not 6. And it is a very heavy bench. Alright, well, I am making two pieces to go on the bottom that will simply provide thickness to when I install the casters, that they will actually then have something to bite into that is more than 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay, getting ready to assemble. Here I have, I'm going to actually use my fast cap system, which is right there. It has a countersink bit, and then you use these special screws for countersink that are matched with the countersink bit. And I really like that system. Now, the screws are expensive, so did I really need to actually pull that system out for this? The answer is no. However, the benches and everything else are actually made with those kinds of screws, and so I wanted to have that continuity to where it looks like it was all constructed right around the same time, even though I'm spreading this construction out over pretty much a year. By the time I get done with everything, I will have stretched probably eight solid days of construction of just everything that I wanted to build into an entire year. It's, oh man, and there's probably no reason for it. It's not like I'm that busy. Okay, so here you see the sides and the ends, and these are the two ends, and notice they are being assembled inside of the sides themselves. So the sides are actually as long as the cart will be for the bottom. Because I'm all pre-drilled, it just goes very easy. Those screws really bite. They have a nice thick diameter. I think it's like a number 10. I'm not worried about squaring this up because once I get the bottom on, the bottom will serve to square it up. And I double check the bottom to make sure the bottom when I cut it was square. All right, so there's the frame. And now I have some interior exterior glue. Probably it's a Tight Bond 2. And there's the bottom. At this point, I think I already have a couple of screws in it holding it in place. I've already squared it up with the bottom, and now I'm simply just pre-drilling and making sure that I have adequate screws in there to where it's not going to be anything but structurally sound. I think the screws that I'm using are 2-inch screws, so I'm being very careful to make sure that I'm drilling straight into and then driving straight down into the thickness of the plywood itself. Because if I get off on a slight angle, that 2-inch screw will actually, it'll come out somewhere and you're going to be able to see it. And then I look like a rookie. Okay, so now I am gluing and getting ready. I think I pre-drilled. Yeah, so I pre-drilled these. These are actually for the casters. So I need the extra thickness when I install the casters, so there's a lot of bite, not only in that piece, that 3/4 piece I just put on, but then it'll bite into the bottom as well. I did this on both ends. Now this piece right here is simply to go, and I have 2 of them, it's going to go on either end. The other one is actually installed. And this is simply for structure. So it wraps from outside edge to outside edge, allowing me to catch with screws the outside sides and then the inside end itself. So it's really tying everything together. So again, it's just structural. You actually do this on these carts, but not only is it structural, but you need that thickness because of actually where you mount your casters. You don't mount them on the bottom, you mount them on the sides for these smart carts. Now here's where I needed my corded router for this project. I pulled my pattern, basically my router jig for the handle that is set up for these carts here. So a couple of screws, I have it attached, I have it all centered. Got the electric up. I'm probably running a 1/2-inch upcut spiral bit, and I also am using a pattern bushing that is mounted to the bottom of the plate of the router. 3 passes adjusting the height or the depth of the plunge each time, and there we go. Now I'll probably end up, yeah, there we go, chamfering. I'll flip it and chamfer again. And other than sanding and installing installing the casters, this project is ready to go. Now I do have some ideas on how I want to modify this very slightly. It is a heavy thing, you know. It's a heavy cart because it's made of AC plywood, and it's probably 3/4 of a sheet, so that's going to be 50+ pounds. These casters are 5-inch casters. They're the heavy-duty casters, and they should support like 500 or 600 pounds each. But it's not about the weight. It's about the height of the caster. So when I go into and I roll back out of my trailer, that I'm not actually bottoming out anywhere. Again, with these benches and with the way the casters are mounted, these will bottom out. Even if I had the width, these would bottom out. And it's because of those casters I'm calling this the all-terrain cart, because with those casters I should be able to at least wheel this out into a relatively even lawn and then just get my carts wherever I want to on site and then offload them and just set them up in a lawn if I'm not on concrete. Okay, so this cart should be done, and it will allow me to take, not this bench, this is 7 long, this is kind of like a roughly 6 feet long, it's measured in metric, but roughly 6 feet long. This will accommodate the new bench style. This is the old like version 2 bench style of Ron Paulk. The only thing I have left to do on this, and it's purely optional, but I think I may do this, is, you see these holes here? These holes do a couple of things on a bench, in that you can put tools on the inside and it takes away weight without actually interfering with the actual structural rigidity of this thing. So it's perfectly structurally sound. You've got openings, put tools in here, and it's less weight. Everything just, it's a win-win. On this one, while I'm not actually going to put anything inside of it except the benches for transport, if I actually route out some holes here, you know, maybe 3 holes along the side or just 2 holes, that I could actually route that out and just basically get this to weigh less. All these are doing is just providing sides, so the benches themselves, when they're inside, have a little bit of resistance to tipping. That's all that is. And so as long as I still have the height here, I can actually take some of this material out. So I'll probably end up doing that. And for that, I'll actually create a router template, so everything that I do is just really easy. I can do this up on its edge, so I don't have to like take it apart for any reason, because all of this is glued. And so being glued, I'm not going to get this apart anyway. So I think that'll be the last thing that I do on this, just to lighten it up a little bit and probably kind of tie it in with what the benches look like. The old style has the ovals. I like this. I really do like this. However, the new style is much more square, and there are reasons for that. This thing right here, I'd probably do square simply to match the new benches, just to have kind of a common theme. There you go. One cart ready to go. Maybe some detailing. Maybe some flames. Paint it up, put some flames on the side. So you know you're get a little bit of a rolling start. Hey folks, Steve here. How you doing? Well, this is going to be version 2 of this particular part of the video, in that I filmed this all yesterday, and for some reason when I went to load the footage, just none of the video survived for some reason. So as you saw me coming out, this video is about this new cart that I built that you will either see in this video or have seen in this video, as far as kind of putting it all together. Not very hard at all. So I needed to have a cart for a couple of reasons. This all-terrain cart is so I can get into and out of a yard. And the other part of this cart is the fact that besides being all-terrain, it is a smart transport. So it's the ATST, and that borrows directly from Star Wars. So AT-AT and the ATST. So with that, with my all-terrain smart transport, the idea is I'm taking my smart benches, which I have right now a smart bench. I'll have a smart station to go in the other cavity here, this other pocket. And I'll be able to transport 2 benches. This will allow me to roll into, as you'll see in a moment, it'll allow me to go across a yard, all-terrain, and then roll it up into my very small smart trailer, my smart wood shop. And it'll fit in the aisle, and my aisle is very narrow. It's under 24 inches because of the width of my trailer is only 6 feet. So it allows me to then transport my carts and be able to offload them and unload them very easily. I need it to be efficient and I need it to be easy, because if it is, I will do it more often. And so these carts, whether I need them or maybe I don't, they could potentially roll with me almost every job. And so I have them if I need them, and if I don't, I simply just roll them out of the aisle, set them off to the side, and I don't have to worry about it. So that's an absolute win. So the ATST, the all-terrain smart transport, is to transport my smart line of benches. Compliments of Ron Paulk. So what I want to do now is I just want to show you that it works. And so I'll offload this, I will unload this, and then I'm going to head towards the trailer. Okay, let's see what I have. So there's the smart transport, and it's out to out, under 24 inches wide because it has to fit in my aisle. It is as long as it needs to be in the inside in order to accommodate that smart bench right there, and the smart bench and the smart station are identical in size. And there are the rest of the parts to this bench. 2 sawhorses, and if necessary, a spreader shelf. Now, ideally, had I had a larger trailer like Ron's is 8.5 feet wide. His aisleway is almost probably 3 feet wide. Mine is less than 24 inches. So he has that extra foot. The system, his smart benches and his smart carts that the bench goes on, his smart carts are under 32 inches wide. So therefore, if you have a 32 inch or over aisleway, you could roll that up in there and make that work. Now, there is an issue with the casters and the ramp and the angle and bottoming out on the bottom of the bench or on the bottom of the cart when you're trying to get it up in. But there is a solution to that, and that's larger casters with kind of like an underside cart. So it's a secondary cart system, and I'll worry about that when I get there. So for this, I have the transport cart. That'll get me across a yard. That'll get me in my trailer, and that'll make everything very convenient for transport. And that's all this cart will do. This cart will not, and it does not have the ability to onboard the smart cart that would go under the bench to make that bench mobile on the job site. So what am I going to do with the smart cart? Well, it's almost like it's a problem for a different day, except what will happen is the smart cart technically can ride flat on top of all of this. And when it goes into the trailer, then there would be an ability to kind of slide the smart carts in and on top of this particular arrangement here. So technically I will be able to take the smart carts with me in the trailer with the system, although it won't be as convenient as Ron's system actually is because of his larger trailer. In the future, when I have a larger trailer, I'll just use that system. But for right now, it's a modification, but it's going to be infinitely better. It's dramatically better than my original bench, and just literally manhandling it on, manhandling it off. There's no cart or anything for it. There's no mobility. Once it's set up, I don't have a smart cart underneath it. So this is going to be incredibly more versatile, and it already has been on job sites. All right, well, here's how it's going to work. So at this point, all the parts are on board, and technically, if this is all I am taking, just one bench, and I'm assuming if I were taking one bench to a job site, probably it wouldn't be the smart bench, it'll actually be the smart station, which I still am constructing parts on. So if I were only taking the smart station, one bench, then see all the space over here. While the smart cart will not nest inside of this, because the smart cart is actually longer than this, or maybe as long as this particular, it would actually set on the ends, sit on these end pieces. And so I could actually just bungee it or ratchet it or something like that for transport. That would be okay. I could actually put the smart cart right beside it and simply have them transport that way rather than two benches. But if I have two benches that I want to take to the job site, then what I would do is I would have the smart carts kind of sitting on top, kind of flatwise on top of this whole system here as I rolled it up in. Now that will be something that in theory I think it'll work. In practicality, I don't know. So in application, when I have the second bench, I'll roll it in and I will try the carts and everything else just to make sure that that actually really does work. But I think it will. The measurements actually play out to say it will. All right, now let's take it over. I cannot tell you how excited I am for this cart now to be a reality, in that bench in it, all the parts to the bench in it, and it rolls right across the lawn. No problem there. No, I don't have the greatest lawn in the world. I do not have the roughest lawn in the world. But for what I would assume is a typical lawn, perfect. Just worked very, very well for that. Rolled into the trailer, even though I have this rock wall and I have kind of an unusual thing that I have to do. If I were just on concrete, this thing would roll right up the ramp and in, and I wouldn't have a lot of monkeying around. But I will say this is awesome. This is just absolutely awesome. Because of this transport cart, this bench and the smart station will go with me on more jobs, especially the jobs where, do I really need a bench? Do I really need, and it won't be that big of a deal. All right, well, now, smart carts, because I would eventually have two smart carts. One is already built for the bench, but I'll have another smart cart that's ready to go. All I have to do is put the casters on it for the smart station, and I'll do that just as soon as the smart station is a reality. Right now it's just a collection of parts. Now, where will that go? Well, you see this. The distance between this cabinet and the underside of this cubby is wider than the smart carts. So my vision is the smart carts will actually rest on both of the benches, because you'd have another bench right here. So it'll rest on both of the benches, and it'll simply span somewhere in here. And then they would be the first things I offload, unless I can figure out a way to kind of temporarily connect it all so it's a solid thing that I'm rolling up in. But otherwise, it would be just sliding them in after the fact, one on top of the other. Well, there you have it, the all-terrain smart transport. The ATST is now deployed and ready for battle. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Ring the bell if you want to get notified when I drop another video. Seem like they're coming every few weeks now. It's a slow time for me. It's busy in many other directions. It's slow for content. However, I haven't stopped thinking about you all, and I do appreciate everything that you're doing to help this channel, and I hope you see me on the next video. You all take care. Bye.